So, hey, Boston buddies, how's everybody doing today? Got a treat for everybody today. Dave McGillivray, Boston Marathon Race Director, is joining us for brunch with the Boston Buddies. So, welcome, Dave. How are you doing?
Great. I'm just curious what you're serving for brunch.
I actually just had a salami sandwich.
Nice.
Yeah.
You can't shove that through the internet, can you?
No, I can send you. I can send you. I guess how are you and the family doing these days with all the changes going on in the world?
Yeah, I mean, we're doing fine. I have 5 young kids here well, 5 kids and 3 young ones here at home.
Mm-hmm.
And I work out of my house most of the time. I mean, I have my Boston Marathon office and I have my DMSE sports office, but I really like working out of the house because it's just real convenient. And I have all the luxuries of a business office right here. So why get in the car and get stuck in an hour and a half worth of traffic when you can just walk down the stairs and bang, you log on and you're in business and you get the most out of every day. So not a lot has changed for me in that sense. Of course, everything around that has changed, but for me, it's kind of business as usual. So we're doing fine. I mean, business-wise, it's been a challenge. I direct, or my company directs and manages about 35 events a year. All the BAA events and the New Balance Falmouth Road Race, the TD Beach to Beacon, the Boston Marathon Jimmy Fun Walk, races in San Diego and Green Bay and all over the country. And, we haven't done a race now since last Thanksgiving, and April now is wiped out. May is wiped out. June's wiped out. We're actually into July now. And the 2 races we have in July one is finish at the 50 at Gillette Stadium, and the other one's run the home base at Fenway. And given the schedules of what's going on, the NFL and the Major League Baseball, we're not sure that those are either going to happen or going to be postponed. So now we're into August.
Oh, wow.
So it's surreal. I've been putting on events for almost 40 years, and never have I had or anyone I'm sure has had a year quite like this in terms of, I can't believe I'm not going to manage a race or obviously running one until August. I don't know. It's just weird situation, but other people have it a lot worse. So I'm not complaining. Have my health and the family. So all's good on my end.
That's good. That's good that you're healthy. Yeah, that's the number one thing. Now, are most of these races getting rescheduled or canceled, or is it all over?
It's a combination of 3 things in the marketplace right now. 1 is cancellation, 2 is postponement, and 3 is virtual. On the cancellation side, on the one hand, that's the easiest thing to do. Just fold your tent and say, see you in 2021. Right. There are ramifications of that, of course. On the postponement side, the good news is hopefully the event will still happen. The challenge is, finding an acceptable date and just get, sort of harnessing all those people back again. And can you get the volunteers? Will the sponsors still be there? What will the no-show rate be? What will the industry look like? 6 months from now, 5 months from now? Will the fear factor still be there? Will social distancing still be there in some form or another, even if, the governor, the mayor, and the president allows us to sort of get out of this shelter in place situation? It's a game changer for all of us. And so with me, I'm just trying to stay a little ahead of the curve, like what the expectation is so we can plan appropriately.
Yep.
I have 10 full-time people. I have about 40 to 50 independent contractors, consultants. So I'm owing to them, employment. And, without any races, there's minimal cash flow. And so you're dealing with the business challenge. So I always thought this road race business was bulletproof, that there was no kryptonite in this industry, that in good times, people are out there running, races are flourishing. Even in bad times, the bottom line is people turn to themselves in bad times and just try to at least stay healthy. And so running and road racing, even in recessions, do really well. So I never expected anything to come along quite like this to sort of wipe it out for a period of time, temporarily. But
Right.
that's exactly what's happened. But then you have the virtual, and I think there's some merit to it, although virtual also sort of encourages people to get out there and run, which is good, but you don't want to run together. So you got
Right.
to run individually. And how do you, if you had 10,000 people in your race, to think that 10,000 people are going to be running around the block,
Right.
to get their T-shirt and their medal. So it's an interesting conundrum. What's going on. So we've experienced some of all of that.
Right. Yeah. It is interesting to see what's going on. I remember when they announced Tokyo was getting canceled in February, and there wasn't that big, like COVID-19 wasn't big in the U.S.
Yeah.
at least then.
Right.
And, there obviously was chatter of Boston getting canceled potentially or postponed. But I just didn't think it was reality, because I remember it was like 2 weeks later was the Atlanta Marathon and the Olympic trials, and everybody went there and had such a great time. And I was there and I didn't even think about this.
No.
And then, a couple of weeks later, here we are.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's another part of the challenge. It's, it happened so fast. And it's not changing weekly or even hourly. It's almost every minute. It seems like there's something going on. You're hearing different information, different projections. So it's, like I said, it's tough to plan when that needle keeps moving on you. But
Right.
But you have to plan for something, and then monitor, and then if things change, then you have to readjust. And
Right.
I'm lucky. I have a really good team and experienced folks, and we still have a solid foundation of events remaining if they're going to happen. So
Right.
we'll be okay.
You're one of those small businesses that is being affected by all
Yeah.
of this. We've had a lot of people in our group obviously affected by this. A lot of people are laid off right now, getting furloughed from their jobs, and they're just sitting waiting for all of this to kind of be over.
Yeah.
But we try and do anything we can do to help people. We let people post if like they've got things that they're selling or things like that, or something, or a service that they offer. Or we've got one guy, he's doing caricatures. So he's drawing pictures of the runners. You can get a caricature drawn of you crossing the Boston Marathon finishing line and things like that. So
Yeah, that's cool.
we're trying to do some things to help people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's all the whole sort of philosophy of turning negatives into a positive. I mean, if you're a negative person and you're just constantly sort of full of self-pity, you'll just, oh, woe is me all day and never get away from this. But if you recognize the severity of it, but at the same time say, I'm going to pull as much of the positive out of it that I can, whether that's more family time, whether that's more time for you to actually get out and take care of yourself, focus on you for once. I mean, most of us, are pretty unselfish, and we spend 90% of our day either at work or taking care of other people, and we don't focus on us. And there's an opportunity and a chance to do just that. I'm anxious to see what the long-term effect of all of this might be, how just our own industry changes, but how life changes and gives people different perspectives. And people dying as a result of this, or getting hurt, is never a good thing at all. But sometimes you look at these things and you say, is this a societal correction, or is this an industry correction? Is not that these things are meant to be, but certain things are going to come out of this, that it's not all going to be bad, right? Some of it is going to be positive. So sort of hang on to that, and you help those who are less fortunate, but at the same time, there's got to be a light at the end of the tunnel.
Right. Well, I think it's with anything, we're always going to have to adapt and adjust. Nobody would have thought what happened in 2013 would happen. And obviously, that has changed. That has changed dramatically, the race world ever since then. It's certainly made your job a lot tougher since then as well. That's why you've had a rough go of it lately with Boston. In 2012, the heat. 2013, obviously the bombings. 2014 was a big comeback year, making sure everything was correct. 2018, you had a monsoon, and now 2020, you have this.
Well, 19. I mean, last year was a monsoon too. With I almost look at last year as being almost the toughest for me personally in terms of, at least with the heat, we knew it was going to be hot and you can ramp up and deal with it. Yeah, there's still a lot of carnage and issues that you're dealing with, but it wasn't the element of surprise. It was, we expected it, and we went in with full, artillery and knew what the battle was going to be. Last year, it was a moving target, and thunder, lightning, thunderstorms, scattered thunderstorms. What does that mean? Scattered where?
Right.
All I wanted to know was when and where, and do you send them off? Do you not send them off? Do you shelter? It was crazy last year. I'd never want to see that again. So we had 18 and 19, obviously weather years, and it was funny, Vince. I just, even though you don't want to act on long range forecasts, it's hard not to take a peek. So this morning I took a peek and I looked at the weather for April 20th, and just Weather Channel showed that it right now is predicted to rain, although it could be sunny and in the 80s. But right now it shows rain, and I just went, wow, can you imagine 3 years in a row of just really nasty weather? So maybe September 14th, it's going to be 58 to 60, partly sunny, partly cloudy with a tailwind. So fingers crossed.
Right. I just, last year, it seemed like you had every season in one day.
We did. You had every season.
Yeah.
Not like we ran through 7 continents practically, yeah.
Right. Well, that's just it. Like, I don't think, people have an understanding of how hard that is, because as a race director, you've got to be prepared for anything. Like, you would be able to be prepared for something like's happening this year. And then obviously you've got to change what you're doing in preparation for September. Who knows if it's even, who knows what changes you're going to have to do just by law.
Yeah. I mean, the typical weather in April is, in the 40s and 50s. Typically, you have those remote times when it spikes and goes into the 70s, 80s, or almost 90s. But you can generally depend on a 50, 60 degree day. September 14th, is it's still the summer. I mean, people are saying, oh, they moved the race to the fall. Well, it's technically not the fall. It's still the summer.
Yep.
And I've done, the research and looked back the last 20 years as to what the temperature has been on September 14th at all hours of the day at every location along the course. And the general consensus is that, it's obviously a lot warmer than it would be in April. So, right now, as we plan for September, we're planning for a hot day, not a rainy, cold day,
Right.
Just based on statistics.
Right. Yeah. People just have to prepare.
Well, the good news is, at least folks most all around the world, but especially here, at least it gives you the summer to train in and acclimate, and you'd be more prepared for warmer weather in September than you would have been in April.
Right. Yeah, I think the 2012 year, even 2016 and 2017, it was a little warmer, and it was like almost the first warm day of the year each year. Like, there was no getting acclimated. It was boom. It was hot that day, and that was it. Yeah.
And he can be dangerous, obviously, with heat exertion, and I don't like heat. Give me anything else. I don't like lightning either, because that's just tough to decide upon. But heat is, I mean, that year, 2012, we treated, I think it was around 2,500 in our medical facilities and transported over 250 to area emergency rooms, hospitals, and that's not good either, in the sense that then we put those hospitals on diversion, and then, obviously the cities and towns, they're having heat issues within their own community, and so if someone needs to be treated and brought to a hospital and it's full of runners, and they got to be driven somewhere else, I mean, that's not a good thing either. So, there's so much more on the planning side that a lot of people probably just don't know. And I get a kick out of when people say, when the conditions are going to be challenging, they say, well, runners can run through anything. And as a runner myself, I get that. I've run through every conceivable type of condition, from running in Antarctica to running through the desert to everything, right?
Yep.
And you get through it, right? Because you prepare for it and you get through it. And there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad gear, and all those kind of mottos. But what people don't understand is that runners might be able to run through almost anything, but we can't plan through anything and everything. We've got 10,000 volunteers in the marathon to be concerned about. We have law enforcement officials. We have this, we have that. Wind gust comes along and blows over all our water stations. Now the runners don't have water anymore because it's all on the ground.
Right.
I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. So when we're making decisions on a go, no go, it isn't just the runners in mind. It's everyone involved in the event. So
Right.
yeah, so it is. It's like I say, I always kid. I say I have a button in my office, is my job secure. No one else wants it. In a sense of, because when it's like right before the marathon, if I'm speaking at the expo and there's like 400 people in the audience, I'll say, oh, how many people are running the marathon tomorrow? And everyone raises their hand. And I say, okay, how many people here are managing it? And it's like me and one other guy that's there raising our hand. I said, well, those odds kind of stink, because comparatively, there's only a few people managing it, and there's tens of thousands of people participating in it. And so it's tough to take care of every single one. I remember standing up in the status platform in 2012, and I said, hey, this is a team effort, and there's 30,000 of you. We can't fit all of you in our medical tent. You all won't fit. Right. So you really have to take personal responsibility for yourself, because as much as we all try to take care of, if you all go down, a lot of you are going to be out of luck because we can't take care of you. It's almost like what's going on with the pandemic right now.
Yeah.
It's they know what to do to take care of people, but when the hospitals get overwhelmed, now they're making decisions as to who gets the respirator and who doesn't, and stuff like that. And it's to be on that side of the fence and have to take care of people when they're hurt is it's not pleasant sometimes. So
yeah, I've seen your motivational talk that you do, and I've noticed that you make it a point, when people find out you're a race director, you have that joke that people say, what does that mean? You get a piece of chalk and you draw a line on the street and then you say go.
Yeah. No, I mean, in a sense, years and years ago, that was a little bit what it was, because there was only a handful of people, 300 in a race, and what's a race director do? Chalk mark in the road, yell go. And now it's so different. I mean, it's big business now with all these sponsors and all this financial implications, but it's also big business in a sense of, it's a lot more difficult to manage an event with 30,000 people in it going 26 miles than 300 people going a 5K. There's a lot of responsibility on a few, amount of people to take care of all of that. So you really need to know what you're doing. And my motto has always been, I don't want to put out fires. I want to prevent them.
Right.
So in preventing them, you don't get credit for that, because the event goes off okay and people attaboy and go home. When you put out a fire, people see that and you rush to it and you kind of fix the problem, and you look like a hero, but the person who fixed the problem is probably the person who caused it, because they didn't plan properly. So there's so much more that goes on behind the scenes when planning these things, because we're always doing hypothetical tabletop exercises, the what ifs and the what ifs and the what ifs and the what ifs and the what ifs, and they may never happen. You know, in Boston, what if there's a traffic accident that's significant on the Mass Pike and all the buses, 200 buses get stuck? Well, if you're the race director and you're standing at the starting line and there's, 3,000 people in buses still out on the highway, do you fire the gun or do you wait for them? I mean,
Right.
The list goes on and on and on. Everyone has these issues. So these are the things we have to constantly think about.
Right. I think something that people might not realize too is that you're a huge philanthropist too, and you have your own children's foundation, correct?
Yeah. The first time I did anything in terms of a charity was when I did my run across America in 1978 from Medford, Oregon to Medford, Mass. And I was working at the Hancock Tower at the time. And I remember sitting at my desk saying, I don't know if I can do this without it being for a greater purpose than just me. Because I know there are going to be times, whether it's 130 degrees in the desert or running over the Rocky Mountains or, trying to get through 45, 50 miles every single day, that I'm just not going to have, I'm going to lose my mojo and I'm not going to be able to finish this thing. And I need something, I need a magnet, a target. And I was looking out the window and I saw Fenway, and I saw a sign out in right field that said, help make a dream come true, support the Jimmy Fund. So I picked up the phone and called the Jimmy Fund, and the guy by the name of Ken Coleman answered, who was the voice of the Red Sox and the executive director of the Jimmy Fund. And I said, hey, Mr. Coleman, I want to run across the country for the Jimmy Fund. And after he picked himself up off the floor, he says, yeah, this is great. The Red Sox will support you and the Jimmy Fund will. And that was the first time, I think, Runner's World said that was the first time someone had used their running to raise money for cancer research, way before like Team Training or Live Strong or any of that stuff. So I just felt like, that made my run possible, and I felt so good giving back. And then ever since then, that's sort of what I've been doing, tying my personal running into philanthropy, as well as all the events that I manage, with no exception, so it seems now, all benefit some nonprofit. So with all the races and all the charity walks and everything combined, it's raised $200-300 million for a multitude of charities. And I suppose if there's a legacy or something one is most proud of, it's more that than anything else.
Right, that's amazing. You touched a lot of lives by being able to do that.
And it's a team effort. I'm one spike in a cog in the wheel. So, but it's the same. The adage is, when you give, you receive even more in return. So, for me, it's makes me feel good about myself to be able to help a little.
Right. Wow, that's amazing. And then this year too, number 40. This was going to be number 48 consecutive Bostons for you.
Yeah.
33rd. This will be 33 at night.
Yeah.
For people that might not understand, what do you what is it that you do? Why are you doing it? Well,
what is it that I do? I'm still trying to figure that out. No, when I ran my first Boston as a senior in high school, 1972, and there were no qualifying standards, but you had to be 18. I was 17, so I still wanted to do it, and I didn't make it. I crashed on the hills and got taken to the Newton Wellesley Hospital in an ambulance, and learned my lesson, and came back the next year and was 18, officially registered, and trained really hard. And long story short, I finished that year and vowed that I was going to run this race every year for the rest of my life. And then, 15 years later, I got offered the job to help manage it. And I was faced with a difficult decision. Do I help run it or do I run in it? And, how am I going to do both? But then I thought, I can't pass up this opportunity to help direct the marathon. So I took the job, and I was at the finish line that year, 1988, high-fiving all the runners, and I just didn't feel good because I hadn't run it. And I just tapped a state police trooper on the shoulder, and I said, "Officer, will you do me a favor?" And he said, "What?" And I said, "Will you drive me back to the start?" He said, "What? Why'd you forget something?" I said, "Yeah, I forgot to run." So he drove me back out. I got there at 8 o'clock at night, and ran the whole thing and finished around 11. And then basically I've done that every year since for 32 years.
Right. Yeah, 2018, you got the easy part of the weather.
You know, it's funny, it's the luck of the draw. I mean, some years you guys, you know, get in under Mother Nature's wrath, and then I get out there and I get nailed. And other years it's the opposite. But the only thing I tell people is you got to realize I'm out there in that nasty weather during the day too. I may not be running, but like I might be on a motor scooter, and it's worse sitting on a motor scooter for 2 hours or 2.5 hours going through crummy weather versus
Right.
running in it. So then I gotta get, you know, changed and back out there and whatever. Anyways, it's
Right.
it's not like who has it easier or harder, but it's just that's what I got and that's what I do, and it's a long day.
Right.
Um,
Well, none
you know,
of
when I
us work
started
all
it,
day
it would
and run it.
say again.
Well, none of us work all day and then go run the marathon.
No, you know, and when you're, you know, it is tough. I mean, I'm not looking for any kind of whatever, but you know, the pressure of the whole day, and you know, my main focus obviously is the race and how it goes and making sure it goes well. And I'm out there at the start at like whatever in the morning, like 4 in the morning or something, and then, you know, just riding on a motor scooter or something, and then being at the finish, and then everyone's just about done, and I'm like, oh my God, I gotta go back out there and do this myself. And I thought it was a good idea back when I was in my 30s, and now I'm in my 60s, and I'm saying, what did I get myself into? So
Right.
it's become, you know, it's tough. You know, I mean, it's the calm after the storm, and truly I love doing it, but I do get a little bit anxious and nervous as we build towards like if the race was in a week, I'd be like freaking out a little bit right now, going,
Right.
oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to do this. But so for me personally, it worked well having the race in September because I get more time to train, because I'm probably not in the best shape of my life right this minute, but I think I will be in much better shape in 5 months. So it works
Okay.
to my favor.
Are the girls from Wellesley out there when you run it?
You know, it's funny. They're obviously not, but one year I remember running by and a couple of girls had just come out of the dorm and they saw me run. So we went over and gave each other hugs and stuff, high fives.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be at the Cheeky Monkey this year, right by the stadium. So we'll all come out and cheer you on as you go by.
I'm good with that. You know, it's interesting because when I first started doing it, you know, obviously no one knew who I was. And, you know, I'd have these people who had been on their front lawn all day. And I don't know what number of beers they're on, like maybe 10 or something. And so they're a little bit inebriated and they're like, hey, pick it up, you slug. You know, they're yelling and screaming at me thinking, you know, I started with everyone else. I'm just running 20-minute miles or 30-minute miles or something. And so it's kind of interesting to hear people screaming and yelling at you, not knowing that you've just worked all day and now you're out there, you just started an hour ago or something. But, and then after about 20 years or 25 years of doing it at night, there was these two guys on their front lawn, and one started really berating me and yelling and screaming at me. And the other guy gave him an elbow and said, hey, leave him alone. That's the race director. You know, and I was like, okay, finally they get it. I've been vindicated after 25 years.
Right. Yeah, but that when I was talking with Bart Monday in the interview,
Yeah.
we were talking about that, not specifically you, but more about runners in general. And you
Yeah.
never know what their backstory is. So it's like,
Right.
always encourage them. Doesn't matter where they are in their training or where they are in the race, or if they're just out running. You know?
It's so true. It's so true. And you got 30,000 people in the marathon, say you got 30,000 human interest stories. And I so often when I'm doing these motivational talks to, especially to running groups, I'll say, how many people here have run a marathon? And, you know, half the audience raises their hand. And I said, how many of you ever knew that you were going to run a marathon when you were like 12 years old? None of them raised their hand. And I said, so what happened between then and now? Something happened in your life. There was a defining moment in your life where something clicked and you said, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do it. And I always say to people, you know what the toughest part about running a marathon is? They say, what? I said, signing the application. Sort of having the guts to say, I believe in myself and I believe I can do this. I'm going to sign the application. And then you got to earn the right to do it and toe the line and answer the gun and run the course and cross the finish line and get your medal. And then magic happens. You go home feeling good about yourself. And there's nothing more powerful in this world, because that's the foundation by which we accomplish anything else in our life, is to feel good about ourselves. And that's why it's funny, because when we were just talking about when people say, what do you do for a living? Yeah, you're a race director. What do you do? And now when people ask me what I do, I say I raise the level of self-esteem and self-confidence of tens of thousands of people in America, because that's what these things do. They give people something to focus on, to sort of get out of bed every day and get out there and do the work, so that they can toe the line, run the course, cross the finish line, and go home feeling good about themselves. And so that's the joy that I get out of all of this, is knowing that this has been life-changing for so many people. And that's what's so weird about what's going on now, is that I was running with my 14-year-old son yesterday, and he's like getting to be a really, really good runner. And I said, Luke, Dad's not going to be directing a race till August. And he turned to me and he goes, yeah, but guess what? I said, what? He goes, we're not going to be running in any races until August too, Dad. I went, oh yeah, you're right. Well, that's going to be weird. Practically the whole summer's going to go by and we may not have one road race to run in.
Yeah. Well, you'll find something.
I know.
Something occupy your time. Yeah. It's interesting you talk about, when they sign up, it's hard, that's when they commit. And I just know also the charity runners, like, a lot of people sometimes will get on charity runners, especially for Boston, but that's definitely not our group. We welcome our charity runners, because when you sign up for a marathon, it is a commitment to actually finish. But when you sign up and you also have to commit to raising $10,000, and if you don't raise it, it's coming out of your pocket. That takes a lot of courage to put your signature on that line when you sign up.
Yeah. Well, I think, evolution has a lot to do with why things are the way they are today. And the same thing is true with the Boston Marathon. I mean, 20 years ago, it took 7-8 months for this race to fill up, and then that all changed when it filled up in 8 hours and 3 minutes, and everything changed. But when it wasn't filling up, that's when philanthropy entered the space, and with the American Liver and then Dana-Farber. And so they started getting some numbers, and that was fine because we weren't filling up at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, lots of money was being raised and lots of lives were being saved. And so the charity program obviously took off from there. But then we were very sensitive about that delicate balance between the fact that this event is about the pursuit of athletic excellence. We know that. That's why it is what it is today, and we don't want to sway too far away from that. However, we also realize that it also can be about saving lives too. What is so wrong with that? So there's that delicate balance between how many people we let in who qualify and how many people we let in through special invitations through our charity program. And last year the race raised $39 million for a whole bunch of charities. And so, you can't just walk away from that. That's never going to go away now. And people just have to understand, okay, I just got to run, I got to run faster to make the cut. And that's a good thing, because we're the only race where you have to do that for the most part.
Right.
And that's why we're the Holy Grail. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that?
You and the Olympics, they're the only two ones.
I was just going to say the Olympics. Yeah.
Yeah. No, we definitely welcome the charity runners, and that $39 million is nothing to sneeze at. It's like, no. It's I can't imagine doing it without that these days. That's great work that everybody has done. We've actually got some breaking news here too. We've got an event coming up May 3rd, actually, that nobody knows about. We're going to break the news right now. There's only 2 people that know about this. We've got Mr. Gene Dykes is laying down a challenge. Gene? Gene, he's actually local to me. He's just outside of Philadelphia.
Oh, neat.
And he's challenging Emily Morley. Emily Morley is one of our younger runners. She's 30 years old. She's mainly a treadmill runner. but he's challenging her to a 5K race on May 3rd, winner take all. So it's the 72-year-old guy versus the 30-year-old girl, head to head. No handicap, no nothing.
Wow. What's the all that the winner's going to take?
At this point, it's just pride, but we'll see. We'll see what we can do. Maybe raise money for a charity or donate to their charity. We'll have people put money on each side, donate to a charity or something.
You know, it's interesting talking about Gene. You know, years and years ago, before I got old, you know, people would say, you know, who are your sports idols? And you know, it's not like I have any idol per se. I don't idolize anyone. I respect them for what they have accomplished and taking what they were born with and making it better and becoming the best at what they do. But, you know, old Johnny Kelly was a really good friend of mine in the day, and I was actually a pallbearer at his funeral. And, you know, just knowing that Johnny won twice, second 7 times, you know, top 10, 20 times, whatever it was, you know, ran the marathon and finished 58 times. I start thinking about that kind of thing. And as I get older, I'm like, how the heck did he do that? Right. And then you look at someone like Gene and, you know, the pace that he's running at his age, and he's older than I am, is daunting, right? And you really don't get as much of an appreciation for something like that until you start sort of entering into that same space in terms of, say, in this case, age. And so my hat goes off to him as to all he's able to accomplish and has been accomplishing recently. And the fact that he's made this challenge now is pretty cool. So,
yeah, I mean, he just ran a 2:54 marathon a year and a half ago.
I know.
Yeah, I've run with him. It's very humbling when you go run with him because he's tough to keep up with.
Yeah.
He's a good guy. He's a good guy though. How are you getting your hair cut these days? Have you self groomed yet?
Nothing yet. It was funny because right before the shelter in place, I actually did get my last haircut. And so I said, okay, I probably got a good month or 6 weeks here. So I'm doing okay at the moment. But it was funny. I was talking to my wife about that very thing, saying, you know, there's going to be all kinds of new vocations that are going to spawn off of all of this. And I said, one is going to be, and maybe it already exists, and I'm sure it does, because there's no such thing as a new idea anymore, but where someone's just going to sort of come to your house, you know, and, you know, set up a little tent in your driveway and bring out their razors and their shears and whatever, and give you a mobile haircut and be on their way. And so I bet you in the next couple of weeks, we're going to hear about people going to either houses or parking lots, and people are just going to stick their head out the window and get a quick haircut.
Right.
And move on.
Right. That's Marty Clark. Marty Clark is a hairstylist. So that's
Oh,
what
right?
I actually been chatting with him, and I said, you should just go to your high-end clients and go cut their hair.
Just have them stick their head out their car window.
Right. Either that or have you ever seen the Flowbee ads? Where
Yeah.
you a razor to a vacuum cleaner and just cut your own hair.
Whatever it takes. Everyone's going to be bald for, you know, a couple of months. Just get it done.
Right.
Do it for charity. Do it for cancer. Right.
Right.
You
exactly.
Know, cut off all your everyone. Cut off all your hair. Make a $100 donation to cancer, and we don't have to worry about it anymore.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
All right. So Marty, I expect you to shave your head today.
There you go. Here's the challenge right there.
There you go. How about, I know that people are talking about running on the course and things like that, and BAA is saying, do not do that. Obviously, we don't want to advocate that at all from our group or anybody from our group, because I don't think people realize like the ramifications of everything else that's going on in the city right now, especially on that day.
Yeah.
Trying to keep people off the course.
Well, I look at it like voting, where someone might say, I'm not going to vote. I'm only one vote. What's the big deal? I'm not going to change the election. Well, that kind of mentality can really backfire, because if everyone had that same thing, then there'd be no one at the polls voting. Well, same thing with running the course. Saying, well, if I run it and just a couple other people do, what's the big deal? Well, the idea is that, why are you more special than the other
Right.
people who have, decided to follow the recommendations and the advisories of those who are in the positions to sort of say, hey, we don't want anyone doing that, because, well, for a lot of different reasons. Roads are open, resources are non-existent out there. We don't need someone to be running the course and then get in trouble and then have to have the local public safety have to deal with that. It's just, Boston Marathon Day is September 14th. So if you want to run the Boston Marathon, run it on September 14th. Don't run it on April 20th. There's no Boston Marathon on April 20th.
Right.
So, I support the BA's position, public safety, the governor, the mayor, and they're going to come out really strong in the next week and push that message as much as possible. So I think that anyone who does it, people are going to look at them like, with shame,
Right.
and yeah, they can say, well, it's an open road and I'm entitled and I can do what I want. Yeah, you're right. You're right. But, that's not what this one's all about.
Right. Yeah, we're encouraging people to stay at home. We've got people all over the world and all over the United States and everything. We are doing a virtual race for the second step that weekend, where you can run any distance, doesn't matter. But we call it the Moly Mile, and the goal of that is you have to run your last mile as your fastest.
Yeah,
Like just run it, and then your last mile is your fastest. It's named after Tim Moly, who's one of our original members here. He actually ran 2017 on crutches. So I don't know that he ran it, but he did the whole marathon on crutches.
I remember him, yeah.
And he messed up his knee, and then he got full knee replacement surgery the following March. And he set a goal to BQ for that year.
Wow.
So he hopped on an elliptical almost every day and trained and ran Erie 6 months after that knee replacement surgery. And he got a BQ by 6 minutes at the Erie Marathon.
Yeah.
That's where the Moly Mile came from, because like we said, we all dedicated our workouts to him the next day. And it was like, make sure that last mile you put everything into, and make sure that it's your fastest mile. So it just it started from that. We've got cool medals and stuff.
That is neat.
Yeah, it all goes to the second step, which is the charity that supports survivors of domestic violence. So, like you said, turning some bad news into good. We raised a decent amount of money for that organization through this virtual
awesome.
one.
Yeah.
But we're encouraging people to do it by themselves in their hometown, and definitely do not come to the course.
Yeah.
And just go and enjoy the day.
That's what I'm doing. So, I feel, I've been out there 47, 48 years in a row and on that day, but it's not the right thing to do this year. So.
Right. Yeah, it'll be a little different because we're running in September. Then we've only got 7 months to get in again. We're going to be doing it twice in a 7-month time span. So that's a lot of work on you to get ready in 7 months.
Well, I mean, that's another interesting conundrum for us, is because typically right after this year's marathon, we start working on next year, and next year is going to be 125th. So the intent was to ramp up a little bit, do some special things to celebrate the anniversary and all that. And, we're going to be working on 2020 up until September, and won't be able to totally sink our teeth into 2021 until after that, which only gives us 5-6 more months to go. Right. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to squeeze 2 marathons in a matter of like 6 months.
Right. I just hope everybody has patience and some understanding, because I know everybody wants to know when registration is and all these other things, and it's like,
yeah,
it is when it is. Just run, just keep
running.
And
that's that's a good sort of quotation. It is what it is, because we can't rush this thing. it came at us so quickly to begin with. And then when the announcement of postponement happened, everyone had 30,000 questions. Well, we didn't have any answers to those because we haven't got there yet, right? And so we just wanted people to know that it wasn't going to happen on April 20th as soon as possible, so that they could readjust things, and whether it's hotels or airline, or whether it's their own training, and then we'll sort out what that all means in the next month or so. But it's going to take some time because there's a lot of moving parts here.
Right. Now I know they're offering deferment for the first time too, where you can defer
refunds
or refunds. Oh yeah, you could defer in 2012, I guess. This year you can just get a refund because it's rescheduled.
Right.
Do you have any percentages as far as like people getting refunds, or how many do they expect to not run it?
No, it's about what a no-show rate would normally be.
Okay.
No shows is anywhere between 8 and 12% or something like that on a typical year. So not everyone they didn't have to decide until the end of May. So it's still in progress. So there's no definite sort of calculations as to how many yet, because they still have time. And I suppose if I was someone who had registered and was trying to decide what am I going to do, I'd wait to the very last minute to decide. There's no harm in doing that, because I want to see, am I going to be in shape? What's the world going to look like? So some people were adamant, like, I'm coming, and boom. And some people knew that they couldn't, and so they told the BAA, and the rest is sort of hovering on top of the fence, waiting until we get a little bit closer to see what's going on.
Right. Now, are there any plans if 25% say no, we're not doing it? Are they going to like allow anybody else to get in, charity runners or anything?
I don't think that that's the intent here. I mean, there's going to be so much pressure to pull this thing off as it is, that, I mean, from the world I live in, and it's not my decision, the fewer the people, then the more efficient the race will be and the easier it'll be to manage. And so, I don't see them opening up the floodgates again, say, okay, we don't have so many people decided not to come, so we can fill their slots now. I don't see that happening, but I don't think that decision has been made yet.
Okay, great. Any final thoughts that you want to tell to the our listening audience?
No, other than it's going to be interesting even to see if this whole pandemic thing actually creates a third, if you will, at least in my lifetime, boom in the running market. I've never seen so many people out there walking and jogging, say, for the first time, riding their bikes, being with their family. I mean, when we do come back, this could be unbelievable. This could really elevate the whole industry, and it could do the opposite too. I mean, I guess it really just depends on the whole sort of social distancing. Well, I'm really call physical distancing more than, I don't want people to social distance from each other.
Right.
Like you and I wouldn't be on this call right now if we were social distancing. I call it physical distancing. Whether if that goes away and people aren't in fear of being around each other once that day comes, I really think that this could have some significant upside to our industry, and more people will want to participate in running and road racing and things like that as a result. So, but I think it's going to take a while. I mean, I think it could be a year before that actually happens, because I think people are going to be real cautious now coming out of this.
Yeah.
So you might see a little bit of a drop in participation, and then you might see a huge comeback in 2021. So hopefully that's what happens.
It's almost a replay of 2014. Where the Boston Marathon's the first major that's going to happen now this year. It's lead the way.
When you think about 5 majors in a matter of a couple of months, that's pretty. Who would have thought, right?
I see a lot of injuries coming.
You know, there are some people who are going to do all 5, you know, Michael Wardian or people like that. I think I registered for all of them.
Did you watch him the other day, by the way? In his
I did. He's a good friend of mine, as he is to everyone, so it seems. And I don't know how he does what he does. You know, I've done some crazy things in my life, but I haven't done anything close to what he keeps on doing it over and over. And I'm saying, wow, where's the injuries to a guy like this? Like, how come he can get away with this stuff? But he's amazing.
The
So
part that I don't like is he's in my age group, so I've got no chance.
yeah, I'd write him off if I were you.
Right.
All right, man.
All right, I appreciate you taking the time and speaking with us, and especially for all you do, not just for Boston, but for your your Children's Foundation, and all the other races that you run every year. I encourage everybody to look up Dave Matthews, the DMSE Sports, what it is. Check out his website. He's got his events up there, and sign up. And you know, obviously he puts on Boston, so all these other races that he puts on are just going to be as good. So thank you again for your time. And we'll see you out on the course at the Cheeky Monkey on September 13th.
All right. Take care. Bye. All right.